Today we will study Unit 2 of Public Administration, which is named Decentralization. So let's start our chapter. Let's start about chapter introduction. India is a democratic nation with republic parliamentary form of governance at national level comprising of the Council of Ministers who are collectively accountable to the elected House of People or the Lok Sabha. Similar structure of governance is replicated at the state level as well as which together constitute to form the Union of India. Further to carry forward the development plans and programs of the Union to the soul of India which lies in our villages, the local self-government bodies were constitutionalized at the urban and rural levels. To ensure proper growth and development of an emerging economy like India, which poses such vast diversity in culture, traditions and thought process, a system ushering in good governance is felt. Even the present era of globalization, urbanization and marketization have brought us to the juncture where we need to strengthen and integrate the market and technological innovations in order to adhere to the requirements of the time through a decentralized form of governance. This in turn can ensure that the needs of all sections of the society, majorly those of the poorest of the poor, marginalized sections of the society, are properly addressed. Since the early 1990s, India has witnessed major policy imperatives like the economic reforms, the Panchayati Raj system, etc. Initiatives to ensure democracy at the grassroots levels were mandated constitutionally through the 73 RD and 74th Amendment Acts. The acts further reinforce the local democracy by empowering the local self-governing institutions, and such decentralization experiments in India are counted under the democratic decentralization. Moreover, the 9th Five-Year Plan 1997 से 2002, initiated during the Prime Ministership of Shri late Atal Bihari Vajpayee, posited the principle of cooperative federalism with major devolution of power and resources between the three tiers of governance: center, state and local, and was also seen as one of the major attempts to bring in people's active participation in the governance process and for a planned campaign to bring in development to the grassroots. In spite of the continued efforts, the actual progress of decentralization is considered to be uneven across the various levels of governance. Now see about concept of decentralization. The idea of decentralization is seen as a major initiative to support grassroots level of democracy. The basic idea is to transfer part of the powers enjoyed by the central or state government to the concerned regional or local authorities. Thus, centralization can be seen as an attempt to enhance the national unity, while decentralization depicts the demands of diversity and the need to attend those. In modern time, there is a need to mutual coexistence of both these forms of administration. Experiences from highly centralized and decentralized nations were found to be disastrous, and therefore it is found to be necessary to put in place a system of collaboration and coordination between the national, regional and local levels of decision-making and administration is found to be effective. Such a system can be visualized in developing countries like India. Adherence to the idea of decentralization lies in the fact that the greater the people's participation at grassroots levels, the better and competent the public institutions and administration work. Moreover, decentralization through the centuries have strengthened democracy in the country and enhanced the central government's commitment towards the growth and development of the grassroots levels. The term decentralization can be traced back to 1820s and is evident from writings of Alexis de Tocqueville. He provided a concrete background of the legislative history of decentralization began with the French Revolution as, in the beginning, invariably a push towards decentralization, in the end an extension of centralization. In sum, the last word always remains with the centralization which, to be honest, increases in depth at the same time it diminishes in appearance. The concept has evolved over centuries, taking on diverse and varied meanings, objectives and forms. Decentralization is often perplexed with similar ideas like deconcentration, delegation and devolution and privatization. We need to understand and differentiate these similar terms as they are associated with the sharing or transfer of administrative power or authority from higher to a lower level, while the nature and degree of such transfers vary from term to term. Deconcentration can be defined as the shift of administrative responsibilities from central ministries and departments to regional and local administrative levels by establishing field offices of national departments and transferring some authority for decision-making to regional field staff. Devolution aimed to strengthen local governments by granting them the authority, responsibility, and resources to provide services and infrastructure, protect public health and safety, and formulate and implement local policies. You can also see the image given below. Now see about characteristics of decentralization. According to Bidyut Chakrabarti and Prakash Chand, the concept of decentralization has the following characteristics. It is both a philosophy and institutional mechanism which seeks to decenter the power from its traditional centers to far-flung areas with a view to empowering local communities. Autonomy forms the heart of decentralization and yardstick to measure the nature of decentralization. Decentralization has no fixed ideological sanctuary. It is in fact used by both the left and the right for justifying their respective positions. The recent spate of enthusiasm for decentralization can be attributed to globalization, as the votaries of globalization are actively advocating for localization through decentralization for development. Decentralization facilitates people's participation by creating new institutional space beyond the center and thereby ensures further deepening of democracy. Decentralization also instills confidence among local communities to govern their own affairs, thus creates a sense of responsibility in local decision-making agencies with more or less independent existence and powers. The basic idea of decentralization is, therefore, sharing the decision-making authority with lower levels in organizations, thereby improving their efficiency, effectiveness, and responsiveness. Let's see the topic significance of decentralization. Decentralization ensures the strengthening of democracy through increased people's participation and control on governance when the powers of the center and state governments are decentralized to the lower levels like districts, blocks, and villages. This further makes the democracy representative, accountable, and responsive in true manner, and that's why it is considered to be the crux of democratic decentralization. In this context, the following significances of decentralization can be identified. In a diverse and heterogeneous society like India, the central and state governments may find it difficult to address the basic requirements of every particular region, and the centralized policies may not be efficient to address the requirements of all regions equitably. Decentralization can contribute to identify the crucial and significant issues pertained to a particular region, further can contribute to overcoming the severe limitations of centrally controlled public policies. With the participation of citizens in development planning, it leads to more creative, innovative and flexible administration. B. Reduces cost of planning. C. Ensures political stability. D. Increased number of public goods, etc. The decentralization of activities and functions, reassigning of central officials to local levels, can enhance the knowledge and sensitivity of officials to local problems, further ensures a close interaction between the government and governed. This can thus result in the administrative and skill development of the executives and also lead to rapid decision-making and reduced red tape. Let's discuss about approaches to the study of decentralization. James W. Fessler, in his paper Approaches to the Understanding of Decentralization, has categorized the approaches to decentralization into 4 heads. They are as follows. A. The doctrinal approach. It regards decentralization as an end in itself rather than equally considering the means adhered to achieve the institutional efficiency and effectiveness. The approach focuses on the empowerment of grassroots or the local levels through which the decision-making and functional authority can gradually be handed over to the people. Though the political approach, this approach believes that the idea to create decentralized units of administration and providing them with functional autonomy is based on a political decision and thus considers decentralization as a major political commitment occurring in a political setting. 3. The administrative approach. In this approach, the aim is to achieve efficiency and effectiveness by creating several administrative units working between the central and local administration. Through this process, the decision-making and grievance redressal mechanisms work better. 4. The dual role approach. The dual role deals with the conflict between tradition and change in the field administration. The duality happens when the maintenance of law and order from the traditional administration comes in conflict with the socio-economic development or the social welfare consideration of the present times. The social welfare administration requires proper coordination among the units of governance and also people's participation, which in turn requires a highly decentralized, innovative and participative administration. Now you can see the different types of decentralization. Based on different political settings and administrative conditions, decentralization can be classified into 4 types: political, administrative, fiscal, and functional decentralization. A. Political decentralization occurs when the decision-making powers are transferred from a higher level of political authority or the government to a lower level. It also assures that the institutions assigned for local governance are managed by the local people, thus bringing in a greater participation of the people in the governance system, which in turn leads to increased legitimacy and more political stability of governments. For instance, the 73 RD and the 74th constitutional amendments for setting up the rural and urban governance system in India is a form of the political decentralization. Though administrative decentralization means the delegation of some of the power and functions of a politically independent unit to its subordinate units within the organization, which may be either territorial or functional. 3. Fiscal decentralization involves the devolution of financial power to lower levels of governance. To realize the actual goal of political decentralization, the lower levels need to be assured with fiscal decentralization or the power to collect and generate taxes and revenues within their administrative units. Fiscal decentralization also enables the units to fulfill their basic requirements and few responsibilities with the income generated rather than completely relying on the state and central governments for the funds. 4. Functional decentralization refers to the transfer of functions from central or state government to local bodies in order to enable them to discharge assigned functions and responsibilities. For instance, in India, the 73 RD Constitutional Amendment Act assigns 29 functions to Panchayati Raj institutions and 18 functions to the urban local bodies under the 11th and 12th schedule respectively of the Constitution of India. These are few of the major types of decentralization which is favored for the easy access, participation and responsiveness of the citizens. We may also note that decentralization takes the form based on the situation it has to act on and thus cannot be an absolute term in itself. In other words, the above four types of decentralization took different forms in the different political and administrative settings. Now we will talk about decentralization in India. From the previous sections, we can sum up that when the power, functions or responsibilities are shared between the central government and local units of governance, we call it the decentralization. The basic idea behind the decentralization is to locally address the issues and problems by enhanced people's participation, as there is a saying that every problem has a solution in its roots. Further, when we deal with decentralization in the Indian context, the term democratic decentralization is most commonly used. The term democratic lends the special characteristic to the concept of decentralization, and it cannot be treated as an end in itself. In fact, the democratic prefix makes the decentralization an effective and efficient tool of development. Democratic decentralization forms two different perspectives. Institutional, it is viewed as an institution of self-government instrumental perspective, and instrumental, an instrument of ensuring participatory development by empowering the local communities. Hence, decentralization is the mechanism or avenue through which the nature of local governance can be ascertained. One of the major steps towards the decentralization in India happened in 1992 with the 73 RD Amendment Act of the Constitution of India. The Constitution was amended to bring in a three-tier structure of governance at the grassroots level, popularly known as the Panchayati Raj or the rural local government. This was followed by the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, bringing in a similar structure at the urban level called the urban local government. Both the local governments share almost similar features like a three-tier governance structure at both rural and urban level, constitutionally making it mandatory to hold regular elections to the local government bodies. Reservation of at least 1/3 seats to women and proportional reservations to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. Creation of State Election Commission to conduct the Panchayat and municipal elections. Provision of State Finance Commission to adhere the fiscal decentralization. Functional decentralization has been administered by assigning various functions under the 11th and 12th schedules of the Constitution of India, etc. The democratic decentralization, in other terms, brings out the governmental jurisdictions below the state level in India, which is otherwise called the local government. The local government administers the locality wherein the officials like Patwari, district magistrate, the tehsildar, the deputy collector, etc. are appointed by the state. The local self-government manages the local affairs of the natives of the area through representatives or by itself. It is considered as a democratic body in the real sense. It consists of municipal councillors, sarpanch and the gram pradhan, etc. The conceptualization of the system of local self-government in India took place through the formation and effort of four important committees from the year 1957 to 1986. Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, 1957 Udas Smiley. The committee was originally appointed by the Government of India to examine community development initiatives and to recommend improvement measures. The committee submitted its report in November 1957, in which the term democratic decentralization first appears. The major recommendations related to decentralization were establishment of a three-tier Panchayati Raj system, Gram Panchayat at village level, direct election, Panchayat Samiti at the block level and Zilla Parishad at the district level, indirect election. District Collector to be the chairman of Zilla Parishad. Transfer of resources and power to these bodies to be ensured. The existent National Development Council accepted the recommendations. However, it did not insist on a single, definite pattern to be followed in the establishment of these institutions. Rather, it allowed the states to devise their own patterns, while the broad fundamentals were to be the same throughout the country. Rajasthan, 1959, adopted the system first, followed by Andhra Pradesh in the same year. Some states even went ahead to create 4-tier systems and Nyaya Panchayats, which served as judicial bodies. Ashok Mehta Committee, 1977 से 1978 Udas Smiley. The committee was constituted by the Janta government of the time to study Panchayati Raj institutions. It identified a combination of factors undermines PRI's unsympathetic bureaucracy, absence of political will, lack of involvement in planning and implementation on a substantial scale, domination of local institutions by the economic and social rural elite, etc. Out of a total of 132 recommendations made by it, the most important ones are 3-tier system to be replaced by a 2-tier system with district being basic unit of planning, coordination and resource allocation. Demanded constitutional recognition for panchayats. Political parties should participate at all levels in the elections. Compulsory powers of taxation to be given to these institutions. Zilla Parishad to be made responsible for planning at the state level. A Minister for Panchayati Raj to be appointed by the State Council of Ministers. Constitutional recognition to be given to Panchayati Raj institutions. G.V.K. Rao Committee, 1985 Udas Smiley. Appointed by the Planning Commission, the committee concluded that the developmental procedures were gradually being taken away from the local self-government institutions, resulting in a system comparable to grass without roots. The major recommendations of this committee are Zilla Parishad to be given prime importance and all developmental programs at that level to be handed to it. Post of District Development Commissioner to be created, acting as the Chief Executive Officer of the Zilla Parishad. Regular elections to be held. L.M. Singhavi Committee, 1986 Udas Smiley. Constituted by the Rajiv Gandhi government on revitalization of Panchayati Raj institutions for democracy and development, its important recommendations are constitutional recognition for PRI institutions, Nyaya Panchayats to be established for clusters of villages. Now see about local self-governance, rural. Panchayati Raj institutions are the institutionalized form of rural local governance that came into existence with the passage of the 73 RD Constitution Amendment Act, 1992. The Act has heralded 3-tier PRIs across the country. Moreover, the passage of the Act has empowered the local bodies to formulate and implement development plans of their own and form an efficient delivery mechanism for development. The 73 RD Constitution Amendment Act, 1992 has inserted Part 9 with Articles 233 to 233 in the Constitution. This amendment implements the Article 40 of the DPSP, which says that state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government, and have upgraded them from non-justifiable to justifiable part of the Constitution, and has put constitutional obligation upon states to enact the Panchayati Raj Acts as per provisions of the Part 9. However, states have been given enough freedom to take their geographical, politico-administrative and others conditions into account while adopting the Panchayati Raj system. Now see about local self-governance, Rural article given below. The significant features of the Act include Article 243 Organization of Gram Sabhas, the body of the electorate of the Gram Panchayats, which may exercise such powers and perform such functions at the village level as the legislature of a state may, by law, provide. Article 233b Constitution of Panchayats at the village, intermediate and district levels in every state. Also, 3-tier PRIs with Jilla Parishad at the top, the Panchayats Samitis at the intermediate level, and Panchayats at the bottom. Article 243d Reservation of seats for SCs and STs in all Panchayats at all levels in proportion to their respective shares in the Panchayat, 1/3 to be reserved for the women. Article 243e Duration of the Panchayats or every Panchayat shall continue for 5 years from the date appointed for its first meeting and no longer. Article 243g Devolved power, authority and responsibilities to rural local bodies to enable them to function as the institutions of self-government. Article 243h Article 243i Fiscal decentralization or powers to impose taxes by and funds of the Panchayats, state government to constitute independent state-level finance commissions to review financial position respectively. Article 243 Audit of the Panchayat accounts. Article 243k Constitution of a state-level election commission for a period of 5 years to ensure free and fair elections in local bodies. Also, the state legislatures are needed to enact laws to endow powers and authority to the Panchayats to enable them functions of local government. The 11th schedule enshrines the distribution of powers between the state legislature and the Panchayats. These 29 subjects are listed below. You can also see the image given below. Now see about local self-governance, urban. The 74th Constitution Amendment Act, 1993 mandated the devolution of powers and thereby setting up the urban local bodies, ULBs, with city governments as the local unit of governance at the urban level. Power was mandated to be given to the people via the local bodies, generally referred to as municipalities, via municipal corporations, councils and Nagar Panchayats, which would have representatives that are elected regularly and have a decisive role in planning, provision and delivery of services. The Act has inserted Part IXA with Articles 243p to 243g in the Constitution. The key provisions of the 74th Constitutional Amendment which pertains to urban local bodies. Article 243q Constitution of Municipalities Nagar Panchayat for the transitional area from a rural area to an urban area, a municipal council for a smaller urban area, and a municipal corporation for a larger urban area. Article 243r Composition of municipalities and seats to be filled by persons chosen through direct elections. Article 243s Constitution and composition of wards committees, etc. Article 243t Reservation of seats for SCs and STs in all municipality at all levels in proportion to their respective shares in the Panchayat, 1/3 to be reserved for the women. Article 243u Duration of municipalities. Every municipality shall continue for 5 years from the date appointed for its first meeting and no longer. Article 243w Powers, authority and responsibilities of municipalities, etc. Article 243x Power to impose taxes by and funds of the municipalities. Article 243y The Finance Commission constituted under Article 243 I shall also review the financial position of the municipalities and make recommendations to the Governor. Article 243 Z. Audit of accounts of municipalities. Article 243 ZA. Elections to the municipalities under the superintendence, direction and control of the State Election Commission referred to in Article 243 K. Article 243 ZD. Committee for District Planning at the district level to consolidate the plans prepared by the panchayats and the municipalities in the district and to prepare a draft development plan for the district as a whole. Article 243 ZD. Committee for Metropolitan Planning constituted in every metropolitan area to prepare a draft development plan for the metropolitan area as a whole. Now you can see the image given in this page. Let's complete our chapter with this conclusion. Devolution, envisioned by the Constitution, is not mere delegation, and it has been achieved through the democratic decentralization, which in turn has facilitated greater direct participation of citizens in governance. India's efforts in decentralization represent one of the largest experiments in deepening democracy. As Gram Panchayat is for rural areas, similarly we have municipalities for urban areas. This new system of local government is the largest experiment in democracy conducted anywhere in the world. Constitutional status for local government has helped to deepen democracy in our country. It has also increased women's representation and voice in our democracy. The 73 RD and 74th Amendment Acts implies constitutionalization, deepening of democracy, decentralized planning, administrative autonomy, financial autonomy, transparency in governance, accountability in governance, popular participation, gender empowerment, social justice via empowerment of least advantaged. As a way forward, since the panchayats have now come to stay as a constitutionally recognized tier of governance, it is time to strengthen them so that they can discharge the duties cast on them in the best manner possible. In areas which have been left to the discretion of the state governments under the Act, it is possible for these state governments to bring in improvements either through administrative orders of the government or by amending the state statutes appropriately. Like it should also be ensured that grants are utilized in a proper and effective manner, with panchayats and municipalities being encouraged to carry out local audits regularly so that Finance Commission grants are not delayed. In a recent report of the Standing Committee on Rural Development 2018, it was recommended that state governments should put a quorum in Gram Sabha meetings for participation of panchayat representatives, including women and members of SCs, STs, etc. This chapter ends here. Thank you so much.